Before we step into this energy, I want to take a moment with all of you. Every single person who has been showing up here, who has been leaving their words in the comment section, who has been trusting this space with the parts of their story that do not always have somewhere safe to land. I want you to know that I carry those words with me. I read them, I sit with them, and the fact that you choose to come back reading after reading, season after season of your journey means something to me that I do not always have adequate language for. If you are finding this for the first time today, welcome. Something in you recognized that this message was for you before you even pressed play. And to those of you who have been here, who know this space and trust it, thank you from the deepest place in what I do. Now let us go into this together. Because, Virgo, what came through for you in this reading stopped me in a way that readings do not always stop me. There is something happening in your energy right now that is extraordinary. And I want to make sure every word of it reaches you. They did not see you coming. That is where this reading begins. Not with what you have been feeling or what you have been going through or the long and patient and sometimes quietly exhausting journey that brought you to this particular moment in your story, but with them, with the person who thought they had you figured out, who looked at you, at your composure, at your grace, at the particular way you carry yourself through the world without making noise about it, and made an assumption, a significant one. The assumption that you were someone they could move through without consequence, someone they could engage with on their own terms, at their own pace, with their own level of investment, and that you would simply remain available, remain patient, remain in the position they had mentally assigned you without ever asking whether that position was one you had agreed to occupy. They were wrong. And the moment they realized how wrong they were is the moment that changed everything between you. That is what this reading is about. That is the energy that is alive and present and moving through your field right now with a force and a specificity that I want to sit inside of carefully so that you receive the full picture of what has shifted. Stay with me, Virgo. Because what I am about to walk you through is going to resonate in a place that goes deeper than your mind. Let me speak first to you, to who you have been in this connection, because understanding your own energy in this dynamic is the foundation of everything else I need to say. You came into this with your whole heart. I feel that clearly, and I want to name it without any softening because it is important that you hear it plainly. You did not half enter this. You did not keep one foot outside the door as a precaution. You brought yourself the real version, the full version, the version that feels things with a depth and a precision that most people spend their entire lives looking for in someone else. And you offered that to this person in the way that only a Virgo can offer something quietly, without announcement, without requiring acknowledgement for every gesture or validation for every feeling. You simply showed up consistently and genuinely, and you gave what you gave because that is what integrity looked like to you in this connection. And for a while, that was not being fully received. I feel that in your energy as well. The specific, particular ache of someone who is giving something real and watching it be received as if it were ordinary, as if it were simply the expected backdrop to their life, rather than the specific and deliberate and costly offering of someone choosing, consciously, to show up fully for another person. That ache is something you know well, Virgo. And I want to acknowledge it here before we move into what has shifted, because it deserves acknowledgement. What you carried in this connection was not small. What it cost you to keep choosing grace when grace was not being matched was real. And the quiet dignity with which you continued to be yourself, even when being yourself was not being seen for what it was, is one of the most significant things I am reading in your energy right now. Because that dignity, that unwillingness to diminish yourself, even in the face of someone who was not yet capable of fully seeing you, is precisely what undid them. Let me talk about the player energy in this reading because it is important that we name it clearly without turning it into something larger or more sinister than it actually is. This person came into your life carrying a particular set of patterns, patterns around connection and intimacy and the management of their own vulnerability that had been serving a specific purpose for them for a long time. They had learned through their own history and their own wounds and their own particular way of navigating a world that had at some point taught them that being fully open carried risks they were not sure they could afford, to engage at a surface level, to create the feeling of closeness without the reality of it, to move between connections in a way that kept them feeling in control, feeling safe, feeling like they were participating in intimacy without ever being truly at its mercy. It worked for them. With most people, it worked seamlessly. And then they met you. And I want to describe what happened when this person encountered your energy, because the cards are showing me something about this moment that is both precise and deeply moving, and I think you need to hear it described fully. In the beginning, they approached you the way they approached everyone, with the particular charm and the practiced ease and the just enough interest to draw you in while maintaining enough distance to feel comfortable. They had a plan, even if it was not a conscious one, a way of engaging that they had used before and that had produced predictable results. And they expected, without really examining the expectation, that you would respond the way others had responded, that you would be drawn in and would show it and would begin to orient yourself around their attention in the way that kept the dynamic moving in a direction they felt familiar with. But you did not do that. Not because you were playing a game, not because you had a strategy or a counter move or a deliberate approach to keeping them off balance, but because you were simply being yourself. And being yourself for a Virgo means something very specific. It means that your standards are visible even when you do not announce them. It means that your sense of your own worth operates quietly in the background of every interaction and shapes the texture of how you engage without you having to make speeches about it. It means that your attention, when you give it genuinely, carries a quality that people feel differently than they feel ordinary attention. And it means that your withdrawal, when something does not meet the standard of what you are willing to accept, is felt as a loss in a way that most people's withdrawal simply is not. They felt all of it, every single layer of it, and it moved through their carefully constructed defenses like those defenses were not even there. Let me speak to the specific moment of shock because I feel it in this reading as a distinct energetic event, and I want to walk you through what happened inside this person when they realized what you had done to them. Not intentionally, not as a manipulation or a power move, simply by being completely and without apology yourself. There was a moment, and some of you will be able to identify exactly when this was, where this person looked at your life without them in it and felt something they were not prepared to feel. Something that arrived without warning and without their permission, and that could not be explained away by the usual stories they told themselves about what they wanted and why they moved through connections the way they did. They felt your absence as a specific and significant loss, not as a mild inconvenience or a passing disappointment or the ordinary minor ache of something pleasant coming to an end. As a loss, the real kind, the kind that sits in the chest and does not move, the kind that makes ordinary moments suddenly feel like they are missing something they did not know they needed, the kind that makes a person look honestly, perhaps for the first time in a long time, at the choices they have been making and the walls they have been hiding behind and the connections they have been half entering, and ask themselves whether any of it is actually giving them what they truly want. You did that to them, Virgo, not by trying, by simply being someone worth losing, and then, whether by your own growing clarity or by circumstance or by the natural consequence of your own self respect asserting itself, not being as available as you once were. That is when the shock arrived, and that is when everything changed. Does this resonate with something you have been sensing in this person recently? A shift in how they are reaching toward you, a different quality in their energy when they are in your presence, something more earnest, more careful, more genuinely present than what you encountered before? Let me know in the comments, Virgo. Tell me what you have been noticing. Tell me what this reading is confirming for you, because I want to hear from you and I want you to know that what you are sensing is real. Now I want to speak to the heart that has been captured, because that is the other half of what this reading is about, and it is the half that I want to give the most careful and the most tender attention to. This person has fallen for you. And I use that phrase deliberately because falling is the right word for what has happened to them. It was not a decision they made. It was not something they planned or invited or felt prepared for. It arrived the way the most significant things always arrive, without asking permission, without announcing itself in advance, without giving the person it is happening to any opportunity to arrange themselves in a posture that feels controlled and safe before it lands. It simply happened. And now they are sitting inside of it, trying to figure out what to do with the fact that someone they thought they were moving through casually has somehow become the person they think about in the quiet moments, the person whose approval they find themselves caring about in a way they are not accustomed to caring, the person in whose presence they feel a specific vulnerability that is unfamiliar and that part of them wants to retreat from, and another part of them, the truer and deeper part, recognizes as exactly what they have been missing. You have captured something real in this person, Virgo. Not a surface level infatuation or a temporary intensification of interest that will fade when the novelty wears off. Something that has taken root, something that is changing how they see themselves in relation to you and in relation to what they want from their life in a more fundamental way than they were expecting when this connection began. I want to speak to your power in this moment, because I feel it is critical that you understand what you are holding right now and how to hold it wisely. You are in a position that you have not occupied in this connection before. And by position, I do not mean a strategic advantage in some game of relational chess. I mean something more essential than that. I mean that the dynamic between you and this person has shifted at its foundation. The energy that was flowing in a particular direction, that had a particular shape and a particular set of unspoken rules about who needed whom and at what level of intensity, has reorganized itself. And what it has reorganized into places you, for the first time, in the position of someone who is being genuinely, vulnerably, perhaps for the first time in their experience with you, truly pursued. Not performed at, not charmed, not managed, pursued with a real heart that has been genuinely moved and that is now trying to find its way toward you with a sincerity that is new for them and that they themselves are still learning how to carry. What you do with this is entirely yours to determine. And I want to be very clear that I am not here to tell you what that decision should look like. What I am here to do is to make sure that whatever you decide it from a place of full awareness, from a place of knowing clearly what has shifted and why and what it means. From the grounded and self-possessed center that is available to you when you are not reacting from old wounds or old patterns, but moving from the clearest and most current version of your own knowing. Because here is the thing about this moment, Virgo, and this is perhaps the most important thing I will say in this entire reading. You get to choose, not from scarcity, not from the fear that if you do not move quickly or carefully enough, this opportunity will dissolve. Not from the place that says, this is the best I can do, or this person has changed, so I should give them what they are asking for, but from genuine, unhurried, fully informed choice. The kind that comes when you know your own worth so completely that the question is not whether you are good enough for what is being offered, but whether what is being offered is good enough for you. Is this person, with their newfound awareness of what you are and their genuine, if still developing, capacity to show up differently, someone you want to open a new chapter with? Is what they are bringing now the humbled and softened and genuinely moved version of them that has emerged from the experience of almost losing your presence from their life? Something that meets the standard of what you are available for? Only you can answer that. But I want you to answer it from here, from this grounded, self-knowing, fully empowered place, not from nostalgia, not from the pull of familiar connection, not from the part of you that remembers what you felt in the early stages before clarity arrived and that wants to return to the warmth of that feeling. From here, from who you are right now, from what you know now that you did not know before. Have you been in a place recently, Virgo, where you have felt your own power in this connection in a new way, where something in you has shifted from reaching toward this person to feeling them reaching toward you, where the dynamic has changed in a way that is noticeable, even if it is subtle? I want to hear about it. Drop something in the comments. Tell me what you have been feeling. Tell me what this reading is touching in you, because your story matters in this space, and the community that gathers here holds it with genuine care. Let me speak to the next steps in this energy because I feel them clearly, and I think they will help you to navigate what is unfolding with the clarity and the grace that this moment deserves. This person is going to continue moving toward you. The momentum of what has been set in motion in them is not going to simply stop or reverse or fade back into the patterns they were operating from before. Something has genuinely changed in them, and change of this kind, the kind that originates from a real and involuntary experience of loss rather than from a decision to improve, tends to have staying power. What they bring as they move toward you is going to be different from what they brought before, more honest, more careful, more willing to be seen in the vulnerability of what they feel without immediately retreating behind the protection of cool distance or practiced charm. They are learning in real time how to be someone who deserves your presence. And that learning is going to be visible in how they approach you. Your role in this, if you choose to engage, is to remain exactly who you have always been, not to make it easy for them in ways that would compromise your own standard, not to rush toward them in relief at having been finally truly seen, but to move at the pace that feels authentic to you, to allow what is real to develop at the speed that real things develop, which is never as fast as the excitement of a new chapter wants it to go, and to trust your own discernment above all else. Because your discernment in this connection has been extraordinary from the beginning. It was your discernment that refused to collapse your standard, even when the pull toward this person was strong. It was your discernment that held you in a place of dignity when dignity was not being matched. And it is your discernment that will navigate this next chapter with the precision and the wisdom it requires. Trust it. It has earned your trust. As we come toward the end of this reading, I want to speak one final time to the beauty of what has happened here. Because in the middle of talking about shock and players and captured hearts, it would be easy to lose sight of the thing that is most worth holding on to. You did not win a game, Virgo. You did not outmaneuver someone or execute a perfect strategy or play your cards right in a way that finally produced the desired result. What happened is something far more meaningful than any of that. You remained yourself. Through the uncertainty and the moments of not knowing and the quiet cost of maintaining your dignity in a connection that was not always honoring it, you remained completely, stubbornly, beautifully yourself. And the person who was not ready to see that in the beginning has now been moved by it in a way that has changed them, that has cracked something open in them. That has made them someone who is reaching toward connection with a sincerity they did not previously possess. That is not a small thing. That is not a game being won. That is the specific, extraordinary power of a person who knows who they are and refuses to be talked out of it, touching another person's life in a way that invites them to grow. You did that, Virgo, simply by being you. Whatever comes next in this connection, whatever you choose and however it unfolds, carry this with you. The knowledge that your presence is not ordinary, that the way you love, when you love fully and without apology, is not something people move through without consequence. That who you are, in all of its depth and precision and quiet, steady, extraordinary intensity, is not too much for the right person. It is exactly enough. It is, for this person, everything. Stay grounded in that, Virgo. Stay in the fullness of who you are. Let this chapter unfold from that center and receive with open hands and a heart that is learning to trust again the love that is now genuinely and completely and without reservation moving toward you. You shocked them, you captured their heart, and you did it by doing nothing more and nothing less than being exactly, completely, and magnificently yourself. That is your power, and it is boundless.